Today I'm bringing you my last Slayer's Fang build, and this build is a Prismatic Titan build. Now, the big question I had as soon as I started this is, how do I get healing? Because on the Void Titan build we had Devour, but on this one there's not a lot of great sources of healing on Prismatic Titan other than Knockout. That requires a lot of melee kills. So, where did I land? With the exotic Precious Scars, or the exotic class item perk, Spirit of the Scars. What this does is when you get weapon kills matching your super element, you get restoration. It's that simple. We're using a void shotgun, so we just use void super. Restoration is we get kills. Now on top of that, because of the exotic class item, is we can stack this with other perks. We could stack it with Spirit of Endless Light, or Eternal Warrior, or Spirit of the Bear. You have a lot of good options that can really take this to the next level. It's already a really strong build. We're just flying through these enemies here. We're generating a ton of Transcendence thanks to mostly Diamond Lances and all this void damage. We have good crowd control. We're getting Overshield constantly between our weapon and Facet Purpose. And see here, we've already destroyed the boss. If that sounds good to you, you might enjoy this build. Let's get into it. I'm Engineer. I'm trying something a little bit new today, and that is giving you a build review right from the outset so you can know what I'm talking about, know if it interests you at all. This build is generally going to be good for general ad clear and some wild DPS, like dungeons and exotic missions and things like that. I wouldn't take this into a raid for DPS because shotgun's just not good enough at DPS for that, but it will keep you alive, it'll let you kill a lot of enemies, and it's really solid for that. Now content level, I've tested this to about 20 power level under. The gameplay you just saw is 15 power level under, that is Legend Campaign. GMs are usually 20 to 25 power under, so they might be a little bit hairier with this. I think with a good team you'd be fine, but there's probably a little bit better builds to use for it. So this isn't necessarily a Master GM build, but I think it's still really fun and really effective. What are the pros of this build? Great healing for you and your allies. I didn't mention this at the start, but Precious Scars or Spirit of the Scars will heal you and your allies when you get those matching weapon kills. That's fantastic. You're gonna have really good damage resistance. You can stack Frost Armor, which will be getting buffed in a few weeks, and Void Overshield, which is two really good damage resistance sources. Slayer's Fang is very versatile. It's very good at ad clear. It's good at larger targets. It weakens, which is just a great damage multiplier. This build's also very mobile. Like, you don't have to plop anywhere. It's just get kills, keep running around, shooting stuff. Really good. And it rewards playing aggressively and up close, which fits really well with a shotgun. Now, for the cons. Once you stop being able to get kills, the healing's going to fall off very fast, and it's going to get rough. So if you get into too high of content where you can't secure kills about every 3 to 5 seconds, you're going to feel it, and it's just going to fall straight off. You do have to manage Slayer's Fang ammo. The shotgun has notoriously bad ammo economy, but there's ways around it, and I'll cover that. This isn't necessarily a con, but the DPS is pretty decent between Twilight Arsenal, Weaken, Jolt, and Weapon Surges. This isn't really a focus of the build, but it's just something that's not its strongest suit. So, if that all sounds good to you, let's get into it. Now, like all my other Slayer's Fang videos, I want to cover the weapon really quickly. This is a slug shotgun. When you hit something with it, it's going to fracture into sub-munitions that bounce around and tend to hit enemies. If you have killed an enemy, then those rounds will weaken, which is really good. When you kill an enemy, you get what's called Nightsworn Sight. It's a little buff that you see through walls on enemies in PvE. You also get some other stat bonuses and some more. You get 15% increased precision damage way of Nightsworn Sight. Weapon kills are not the only way to get Nightsworn Sight. If you pick up a Void Breach, you'll activate it. If your allies pick up a Void Breach or activate it via kills, it will also activate for you. So it's kind of a cool team exotic if you're all using it. As I mentioned, ammo economy is a major weakness. You only get about 3 magazines of this. It is a magazine loaded shotgun, which is pretty cool, but you don't have a lot of ammo, so you're going to need to constantly be thinking about that. This is a craftable exotic, and it has several catalysts, Repulsor Brace, Stats for All, Cascade Point, and Loose Change. I recommend either Repulsor Brace or Loose Change. You can get Void Overshield in Prismatic with a Facet, but I generally just like Repulsor Brace to have it more consistently because you'll be weakening enemies. If you don't want to use Repulsor Brace because you are getting it from the subclass, Loose Change is my next best option, because when you inflict any verb on enemies, you get a bunch of buffs, reload speed, target acquisition. It'll make those crits easier to hit. It's really good. One thing that some people may not know, and it wasn't discovered till a little bit into testing for this weapon for people, but this weapon will do an extra 10% damage to fallen and scorn enemies, which is pretty good if you're fighting those. So keep that in mind. It makes it a little bit better. Just for your reference, I've included what I have crafted on my Slayer's Fang over to the right here with Repulsor Brace. So look at that, but also just tune it how you want. It's craftable. Take advantage of that. Now, for other weapons, really just use Void Heavy. We're going to run Void Weapon Surges here. We're going to have a lot of stuff building off of using Voids, using Void stuff, so just stick with that. For your other primary weapon, focus on champion counters, or I like to have something like an auto rifle that you can get enemies to finishers, because we'll be doing finishers in this build for ammo. Talking about the exotic, I'm showing the snip from the Destiny Data Compendium of Spirit of Scars. Precious Scars does almost the exact same thing. It just also has some benefits when you revive allies, but we don't really need that necessarily, hopefully. This perk, what it does is when you get a weapon kill that matches your super element, in this case Void, you get 1x restoration for 3 seconds, and it goes to you and allies. There's a 3-second cooldown between activations, so you need to kill pretty consistently to keep this going, but it's really strong. It helps keep your team alive. I used Precious Scars way back in Warlord's Ruin about a year ago on that final fight to keep my team up on Titan, and it was really good. Now, if you don't have Precious Scars, you need to own Beyond Light, and then you get it from Rahul's Novel Decryption or Vex Strike Force. As for the exotic class item, Stoicism for Titans, if you don't have it, you need to unlock it. You can get it from either the Pale Heart or Zerg. Now, if you want perk attunement, you need to complete the Dual Destiny mission, which has a little bit of lead up to it, and then it's just a mission that you have to do at least once, but it's also good to do because it's one of the best sources for this. Now, for Stoicism perk combos to go with this, Spirit of Endless Light is always good. It'll give you more ability spam so you can trigger a few things more frequently. Spirit of the Eternal Warrior, this one's a little bit more niche, but after you use your super, it'll give you a 4x weapon surge for 25 seconds, which is a huge amount of time, and you can get your super up pretty quick. Lastly, Spirit of the Bear will let you get super energy back when using Unbreakable. This right now is a little bit underwhelming, but buffs that are coming in episode Heresy in just a couple weeks, I think will make this a lot better, because it'll make it charge faster, and it's making that Unbreakable aspect even more usable. So consider that. Hard to tell right now until we see the buffs, but that could be a pretty good pick. Moving over to our aspects and abilities, we're going to take Unbreakable. This aspect right now is just a tiny bit underwhelming, but it works really well in this build because all we need it to do is just block some damage, let us get close, and then grenade kill enough enemies that we can get volatile rounds from Facet of Bravery. And it's doing that pretty well right now. As I just mentioned, this will be getting buffed in episode Heresy pretty considerably. It will charge up to max damage faster, the max damage will be higher, it'll use less grenade energy when you do the blast at the end with it, so a lot of great buffs. I think it's going to glow up a good bit, but even without that, it's doing pretty good right now. Our other aspect, I recommend Diamond Lance because this will give you freeze on enemies, frost armor for you, and good crowd control from that freeze. This also will bounce out your Darkness Transcendence energy pretty well because we're pretty heavy on the light energy, using a Void Shotgun all the time, inflicting volatile and all that. So this bounces out, gives you some more damage resistance, and all that's good. On your grenade, you're pretty flexible. I like Pulse Grenade because with another fragment, you can get Jolt, and that fragment will also give Unbreakable Weaken. The grenade that you choose if you're exclusively using Unbreakable, though, doesn't necessarily matter because Unbreakable sets your cooldown to 152 seconds, and your flat gain factor will be 50%, regardless of which grenade you pick. So on your melee, also pretty flexible. I picked Shiver Strike just because darkness damage, and it gives you a good gap closing move to get up to enemies really quick so you can use that shotgun. On your class ability, it's pretty flexible, but Thruster has a low cooldown and is nice for mobility, so I use that. Moving over to Fragments, as I mentioned, we want to take Facet of Dominance. It will give a Pulse Grenade Jolt. It'll give Unbreakable Weaken. We already have a lot of Weaken in the kit, but it just helps to make that blast go a little bit further, and sometimes on a boss you may need that. And the Jolt's also a really good way to get some extra damage on bosses, or mini bosses, or stronger enemies. We also want to take Facet of Dawn. This will give us Radiant, which is 25% weapon damage boost. One exotic armor you see a lot with Slayer's Fang is No Backup Plans, which is very good exotic. Gives you a 35% weapon damage boost, but this doesn't stack with Radiant. So if you were using that on Prismatic, then Radiant wouldn't really give much. Just to note, Facet of Dawn only lasts for 5 seconds, so you're only going to need this for priority targets, but just save your melee up and then just swing in there, punch them, and just unload your shotgun as fast as you can. Our other weapon damage boosting one is Facet of Bravery, so after we get a grenade kill, it'll give us volatile rounds for 11 seconds. Really, really good. With Slayer's Fang's ricocheting rounds, you just scatter volatility all over the place, and it's great. Our next two fragments are Facet of Purpose and Facet of Protection. These give you damage resistance Purpose will give you a different one depending on your super. We will get Overshield because we're running a Void super. And Protection just gives you flat damage resistance for being close to enemies. Our last fragment is Facet of Awakening. And this is just there to help you get Void Breaches to activate Nightsworn Sight more often. And it will just also keep your ability loop up just a little bit more. If you want to switch that out though, consider Facet of Balance. It just gives you a little bit more ability energy, so you can spam your abilities a bit more in between shotgun blasts. Moving over mods and armor stats. As I mentioned before, we have to compensate for the ammo economy on this shotgun, and the way we do that is Special Finisher. But we also do want Void Weapon Surges because we are so weapon focused, so we balance this by putting time dilation on our class item to make those weapon surges last longer. We put charged up on our chest piece so we can have 4 armor charges because Special Finisher will consume 3 of them. And then we take stacks on stacks so that we can get 2 armor charges for every orb we pick up. Generally will keep you topped out pretty consistently, and you will almost always be able to finish if you see an enemy that's finishable, while also keeping your weapon surges up. Beyond that, I'm going to build for weapon support and ammo, and then making as many orbs as we can, generating as much super energy as we can. We will take Ashes to Asset on the helmet so that our Unbreakable blast we have a super. We're going to take firepower and heavy-handed on the gauntlets so that both our melee and grenade can make orbs. Right now on my gauntlets I have a mod to have grenades generate class ability energy, and that's just to help prop up Spirit of Inmost Light a little bit because the class ability regen is the weakest part of that. Change that if you need to. I'm also running Reaper. That's one more source of orbs when we use our class ability, and then we're getting a lot of weapon kills. On the stats, it's the standard priority. Max out resilience because you're on Titan, and damage resistance is king. Then get discipline as high as you can, get a little bit of strength, then just try and get recovery and intellect to 30. Very briefly covering your artifact perks. These are leaving in just over 2 weeks. You want to take most of the void perks. You will generally just collect as many void breaches as you can, and you'll get some buffs out of that. The void perks that I recommend are boxed in purple over to the right. There's also a few perks that will help you get more armor charges. That's Thick of It, which gives you armor charges when getting kills while surrounded by enemies. Curative Orbs will make an orb the first time that you break the shield of an enemy, which is 2 armor charges because stacks on stacks. And Finder's Keeper will give you armor charge when you pick up special or heavy ammo. Because we're very focused on our ammo pickups, we will get special ammo pretty frequently. So free armor charges, really good, but the build works without this stuff, so don't sweat it too much. I want to show you a longer gameplay loop. Just being consistent with the other videos is the opening of Contest of Elders. It's kind of a hectic encounter that has a lot of enemies. It's made for 3 people, so it's pretty decent test of survivability. This is on power level content, so the enemies are fairly easy to kill and don't do a ton of damage, but it's more just about being able to cover for weird situations, and it's not really a very structured encounter, so it's been pretty decent to test survivability. And it has a lot of mini bosses and banes and stuff like that that can kind of push you. See here, pretty survivable. The overshield's consistently up. You always want to be looking out for those finishable enemies. I've missed a couple already here, but just really want to focus on that. There's one finally. You're not completely invulnerable, and you really need to consistently shoot. So that's why the ammo is important, because as soon as you run out of ammo, it just gets very tricky to stay alive. The enemy's getting weakened, and they're just kind of slowed down a lot, so not fighting back too hard. As I mentioned, your primary weapon can help you weaken enemies just enough that you can get that finisher off on them. Unbreakable is really solid for catching your breath, but just make sure all the enemies are in front of you because it's only a frontal shield, but it does have a lot of damage resistance on it. Right now we're cooking with it pretty well. Cluster enemies, you can just see the ricochets taking them out. This little model prisoner lead enemies are just very easy to destroy. Just a couple shots, not even very accurate with those. So we get a little bit low here, just getting shot by enemies from behind, but the restoration kicks in and we're doing just fine. You just want to do that Unbreakable pretty much as you can to get the volatile rounds back, because that will make this build just clear out enemies much faster. Many bosses on the field, so we're going to work on him, but first just clearing out these ads so we take less fire in the back. Finishing off these Corrupted Chieftain guys. Unbreakable is nice for blocking those stomp blasts that tend to knock you back. The only thing with the shotgun is bosses who knock you back. Dip again. Just gonna use our super to weaken him down. Twilight Arsenal is a great super. We're kind of stuck with it for this, but it is just really strong. And that's pretty much it. So, just to summarize that gameplay loop, you want to use Unbreakable to go into combat and blast enemies. That'll give you volatile rounds. So slay out on those groups. Use your powered melee on stronger enemies to get Radiant. Slam your Diamond Lances whenever possible for Frost Armor, Freeze, and Darkness Transcendence energy. Then pop Transcendence when it's up for more ability spam and 5% extra weapon damage. That will also give you 20% damage resistance, so that's really solid for survivability. And then just use your super as needed, whether it's boss or enemies, whatever. Kind of get the feel for it, but you'll have it up pretty often thanks to this build. That's pretty much all you need to worry about for the gameplay. It's really straightforward. Just shoot your shotgun and you will stay alive. That's all. I'm gonna bring up that build review slide again as I just kind of wrap up. Hope you enjoyed the build. Turned out pretty well. It's pretty solid and survivable and really fun. Makes use of an exotic that I haven't got to use in just a little while, but is kind of underrated, and it's just really solid in a lot of different content. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Just if you are new to the channel, I have a Prismatic Slayer's Fang build for each class. I also have a Void Slayer's Fang build for each class, so definitely check those out if you're interested. I really like the shotgun. I think it's very underrated, and I've had a lot of fun using it. We are finally starting to get some previews for episode Heresy, so I will be doing topics on that soon. I'm working on a video highlighting all the changes and what is going to be good in the next episode based on that, but I'm waiting for the armor article that we're supposed to get this week to just know what exotics are going to change so that we have a really good sense of what to use next episode. Very excited about the new episode. I'm appreciating all the support on the channel. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting builds to do with new aspects, new subclass verbs and all that, so it's a really good time to get into the channel. Just a few other random notes. If you need to refer back to these slides, I will link them in the description along with the dim link and a Mobalytics link, whatever works for you. On top of that too, if you want to discuss builds or ask me questions or just come up with ideas, I have a Discord. It's still pretty small right now, but feel free to join and just talk with me. I usually will preview builds before I upload them, so you can hear what I'm working on, and also just let me know if you have any questions. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate it.